everyone, and welcome back to Jenny Cooks. Tonight I'm going to be making a cottage pie, which is a firm family favourite in our house. So I am going to start with these ingredients. So you will need some beef mince, so there's 500 grams here, some potatoes, which we're going to peel first, an onion, some carrots, tomato puree. This is a stock pot, a beef stock pot. Some frozen peas and some Leon Perrins. You literally only need a few drops, and I only have, as you can see, only a few drops left, but that is all you need. So you just need a few drops. That really gives it a good taste. Leon Perrins oyster sauce, and then I'm going to serve it with a side of broccoli. So follow along. So I'm going to start by peeling the potatoes, and I'm going to peel it onto this bag here so that I catch all the trimmings and peelings of the potato, and they go into the bag. So I've got 4 of these. I've got a family of 4. The reason I do 4 actually is between us we probably wouldn't need 4 potatoes, but I always need it on shepherd's pie because I need to cover the top of the pie with potatoes. So I always try and go for, with 500 grams of mince, I would always try and go for 4 potatoes. Maybe mine are a little bit big, but my kids love mashed potatoes, so 4 big potatoes it is tonight. So all 4 potatoes are now peeled, and I'm going to chop them up. So when I chop them up, I chop them into slices about maybe 1.5 centimetres thick, if you're going to be precise, but to be honest, I just guess. And then I cut these into smaller chunks because we're going to pop them into the pan. Once I've sliced them up, I tend to cut them in half again, so they look a bit like that, because then they cook a little bit quicker. So once I've cut all those up, they then go into this big pan here, and I pop the potatoes in like that. So the potatoes are all chopped, so I'm then going to take them over to the sink, and I'm going to fill the pan with cold water till it just covers all the potatoes. So quite a lot of water. So as you can see here, potatoes are just about all covered, and then I'm going to pop that on the pan. I'm going to put it on the stove over here. I'm going to put it on the back one here. This has high potential of bubbling over the top, so I need to be careful. I'm going to turn on my cooker, and I'm going to put it on to 9 just to get it boiling fast, and then once it's boiled we'll turn it down to a simmer. Now the potatoes are going to take about half an hour or so to cook, between 20 minutes and half an hour. So in between that time, I'm going to now peel the carrots, exactly the same as before. I'm going to pop the peelings onto the same bag that I put the potato peelings in, and I'm just going to peel my 3 carrots so that they are ready for later, because later on it all moves pretty quick. So if the carrots are already done, then I don't need to worry about peeling them at that last stage. So I'm going to do those now and get one step ahead of myself. So the next thing I'm going to do now my onions are peeled is my carrots are peeled, sorry. I'm going to chop the onion. So I'm going to peel it first, and on this side here, over here I have my bag of peelings still. So I'm just popping that to one side as I peel my onion, and then I'm going to chop it. Now when it comes to chopping, I'm just going to help me peel it and take the top off of that onion there. As I go to chop the onion, I like to just chop it with a knife. I will show you my little hack. But if you have a V-slicer, lots of people like to use the V-slicer. My husband likes to use the V-slicer. I don't. I can use it. But to be honest with you, I find it a pain to wash up, which is why I don't reuse it. So I prefer to cut it with a knife, and to be honest, it's just as good. So if you don't have a V-slicer, or if you do and you don't know how to use it, this is the way I chop an onion, which is fairly quick and easy. So my onion is peeled. I'm just going to take the top of this little bit off here, because I don't need that bit. I'm keeping an eye on my potatoes, they're not boiling over yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop in lines, not quite through to the bottom, but almost. So can you see that's not quite through to the bottom, but I have sliced it. So I'm going to do that all the way along. So not quite through to the bottom of the onion. When I get so far, I like to turn it around, and I go all the way along. So then when I get to the other end, I've got lots of lines like so. Now I'm going to turn it around this way, so my lines are now horizontal. That's vertical, they're horizontal. And I'm going to cut some more lines. So exactly the same thing again, but I'm going to cut them vertically over the top of the horizontal lines to make it look like they are cubed. And then the magic is you hold it all together like so, and then you just go from the top to the bottom, and there is your diced onion. And there you are, you see. So that to me is a perfect way. I do twist it around a little bit to make sure I get all the sides in. Keep them fairly nice and thin, and then they are ready. Now I'm just going to pause for a second because my potatoes are now boiling. Let me show you. So my potatoes are now boiling, as you can see, and they're about to boil over. So I'm going to turn them down. So they are now on a 7, and I've just turned them down and they've calmed down a little bit, and I can go back to chopping my onion. So there we go. Right, so I'm nearly there at the end of my onion. So I'm just going to get right to the end there. That's the middle bit popped out. If you notice, I haven't chopped the root off. I was told, I don't know whether it's an old wives' tale or not, but I was told never ever cut the root off an onion, so I never have. And I just throw it away at the end. It's supposed to stop you, your eyes watering, but I can't say that's ever really worked for me. Although this one's quite a good onion, so this one hasn't been too bad. And there you are, as you can see, you've got lots of little diced onion bits. Any that are left over, like this bit here, I just very quickly chop up. And because the lines are already there, this little bit fell off on the end, so I can just drop it through, and voila, job done. So, chopped onion. Now the next thing is this is going to go into our pan, which is going to be where we cook the main part of the meal. Now as you can see, the onion is just starting to turn a bit brown, so we are ready to pop in the mince. It's still on quite high heat at the moment. Potatoes are still doing beautifully over there. So I'm now going to pop in the mince. And in it goes. Now with mince like this, you're going to need to break it up, which I find really annoying. I like the packet so it's a lot looser, but these ones all stuck together, I think it's saving on. I think it's more eco-friendly, but it does make it a little bit harder work in the frying pan. As you can see, it's not that tricky to break up, and then once it's all broken up, I'm going to turn it around until it's all completely brown and broken. So I'm going to chop up the carrots now, just while the mince is finishing off. So I'm going to top and tail the carrots like this. Just take the tops and the bottoms off, and I'm going to pop that in the rubbish pile over there. And then I am literally going to slice these up so that when the mince is browned, we can just pop the carrots straight in. I'm not the most even chopper, so it's a surprise on what size they will come out. Again, if you've got a V-slicer and you prefer to do it with a V-slicer, go ahead. I just quite like doing it the old-fashioned way, just chopping it up. So I've just come back to the mince, and as you can see, this is browned really nicely. And it's almost ready, so I'm just making sure that onion mixes in well. And I'm just checking that every bit of it is well cooked. So we are almost there. And as you can see, the potatoes are going well. They're still on 7. They won't be ready just yet, but like I say, they take between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on how many you've got. Mine are more likely 30, because my pan is pretty full. So whilst they're cooking, we can get on with the mince. Right, so I would say that mince is pretty much ready to go. It's a little bit lumpy because of the way this one was cut. And I didn't break it down quite as much as I would like to have done. And I've got a little bit of extra mince today because if there's some left over, then I will take it for lunch to work. But if there isn't, then it's fine. It means I've got a hungry family. Right, I'm going to get the carrots now. I'm still cooking on a 9, so I'm still on a high heat. In the carrots. And I'm going to tip in the carrots. Now, just in case you weren't sure, this little hole here that you'd normally hang your chopping board up by is great because you can pop your ingredients through the hole so they land into the cooking pot without spinning over the edge. So it's quite a useful little hack. Now here's our carrots, and I'm just going to stir all those in. Okay, so now I'm going to pop the stock cube that I've got here. So this is just a beef stock cube, just a Tesco one. And I'm going to pop that into my measuring jug, like so. And I've just boiled my kettle, so make sure you boil up your kettle. And this is going to fill up to 500 ml. So this is around about 500 thereabouts. There we go. And I'm going to have a fork and stir it all up. So it's almost like a little whisk, but don't go too fast. It's obviously boiling hot water, so be careful you don't hurt yourself. So I'm just going to stir it up until the stock cube dissolves. Now whilst that's dissolving and doing its thing, the potatoes are still very happy bubbling away. I'm going to get some tomato puree now. So this is just a Tesco one, this is about 59 pence. It does loads of meals, so it's good once you've opened it, you can keep it in your fridge. And this is a tablespoon, so I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons. If you're only using 250 grams of meat, you would only really want to do 1 tablespoon, but I'm going to do 2 today. You can buy smaller pots of meat certainly in Tesco, Aldi. I'm sure you can do it in Lidl as well. And so I'm going to pop this in, and I'm just going to stir this in. This is just going to add to our cottage pie flavour. So I'm going to mix that in, and then the magic is the Lea & Perrins. So this is the Worcester sauce. This is the Lea & Perrins Worcestershire sauce, and this to me is what gives it that cottage pie flavour. And I'm just going to put the last few drops that I have in here. That's more than enough. You probably only need about maybe 6 or 7 drops. 6, 7! I know you'll all laugh at that. So I've just popped those in there. Give it a little stirring up. And then the next step is to put in the gravy that we've just made. So the sauce that we've just made from the stock cube. is going to go on the top. Gosh, it smells delicious now with all those little flavourings in there. So I'm going to get the beef stock, I'm going to pour it in, and I'm just going to turn that down to a 7. There we are. So that's the beef stock in. I'm going to stir this round until it starts to bubble, and then when it starts to bubble, I'm going to leave it for about 5 minutes. There we are. And as you can see, that's just starting to bubble now. So as it begins to bubble, I will now let this bubble away for approximately 5 minutes, and I've turned this down now to, it's 7 on the induction hobs, but if you've got a gas hob, just turn it down to about 3/4 heat, so it's not full on now. Okay, so now I'm getting the peas, and I'm just going to cover the top with peas. So depending on who you're making for, if it's just yourself, you might not want to do as many as that. I'm obviously making for a family of 4 of us. So those are my frozen peas. They're going to sit quite happily on the top there. I'm going to mix them in, and then I'm going to wait for this to bubble again. So it's going to stay on 7. I'm not going to change the heat, but I'm going to let the peas warm through as they're cooking into the sauce and everything else that we have made so far. Right, that's those all mixed in. So I'm going to let those cook. Now, let's check the potatoes. So I'm going to get a knife, and I'm just going to pop that into the potato. Now, if the knife comes out easily, you know that the potatoes are cooked. If you put it in and pull out a potato, it's not cooked. So these are all very well cooked. These are ready to go. Now, I'm not quite ready for them just yet, so I'm going to turn this right down now, just to a 2, just to keep them warm. So as you can see, this then lowers it all down completely. My peas are still going, and I'm going to get my broccoli ready, and I'm very quickly going to steam the broccoli. So I'm going to chop into the florets and just take them off the top of the broccoli cone, as it were, or the broccoli head, or crown, I think they call this in the shop. And then I'm serving the broccoli as a side, because although this has got vegetables in it, anybody that knows me knows that we need lots of vegetables. Broccoli is rich in vitamin C, it's rich in iron, so there's lots of good things about the broccoli. So yeah, why not serve it with a bit of broccoli on the side? If you don't like broccoli, don't use broccoli. So I'm going to steam my broccoli. There's many ways that you can cook broccoli. I'm going to steam it. So at the bottom of my pan, I've got some boiling water that I'm just going to reheat in there. And this is the steamer that's going to sit on the top. So I'm going to pop the broccoli in here. If you don't have a steamer, you can just pop the broccoli into the hot water and boil it for about 5–10 minutes, depending on how well cooked you like your broccoli. So I'll put that in there. I'm going to place that on top of the steamer and pop the lid on. That will be ready in about 5 minutes or so, by which time this will all be ready. You may have even served it up. And our potatoes are now ready, so I'm going to turn those off, and I'm going to strain the potatoes using a sieve. Now, I've only got a small sieve. I probably ought to get a bigger one, to be honest, but I've just got a small one for now. I'm going to take it over to the sink, and I'm going to pour the potatoes very carefully, so I don't lose half of them, into here. I've lost some of them, look. That was not cleverly done. So I get rid of the water, and then I'm going to put them back in. And I did lose the potatoes. Right, I'm going to pop these on here, and I'm going to use this to mash them up. But first I'm going to get some butter and milk. So I've got some milk. I'm just going to pour a bit of milk in there just to make them nice and creamy. And then I'm going to get some butter and pop in a good dose of butter. This is quite hard, this butter's been in the fridge. So that should melt nicely in there. And then I'm going to get my potato smasher and just smash the potatoes so that they mash up nicely, ready to go on top of our mince when we are done. So we'll just mash all the potatoes up. You can use a fork if you don't have a potato smasher. These are not very expensive, but they're great for making mash. Like this. And then you just crush up all the potatoes. They're quite soft. It's not something you really want to do if you're angry. It's better to make bread. This is a much more gentle kind of smashing. And as you can see now, those potatoes are quite light and fluffy. And we are going to put those on top of our shepherd's pie in just a few minutes. So you can see this is all boiling now. So our peas are cooked, our mince is cooked, our carrots are cooked. This is ready to serve. So I'm going to pop all of this into my big dish. Now, when serving shepherd's pie, I use this dish because again I'm using it for a family of 4, but you might just have a small bowl, or you might want to make yourself 2 or 3 so you've got some for in a few days time. Or if you've got a freezer, you might want to freeze some. So I'm going to pop all that in there. There we go. And as you can see, there's lots of gravy in there, and this will suit everybody down to the ground. We'll just smooth it out. I want to make it as smooth as possible as I can on the top, because I'm then going to put the potatoes on the top to finalise my pie. So there we go. My broccoli is steaming well, so that will soon be ready. So we're going to get our potatoes. I'm going to get a big spoon for this. And then I'm going to pop the potatoes onto my pie. And we're going to smooth those out. So let's get all of these on here, and you will see that in a minute I will smooth all of that over the top of the mince. So I put a good dollop on first, and then I get the back of the spoon and just smooth it out over the top of the pie, and I try and get it into right to the edges and into the corners if I can. And then this is why I put quite a lot on, because this then makes it secure and it stops the sauce from spilling out over the edge, she says carefully. There we go. That's a little bit of sauce creeping in over there, look. So then I get a little bit more potato, put it over there, and we hide the sauce. There we are. Now, let's get the last bit of potato here. Pop that on this end. There we go. And do the same again. I may even use my knife now, so I'm using the side of the knife, look, just to get this in. And then, there we go. And we can smooth it over the top. And then this will be the centerpiece to the table. And then everyone can help themselves. Or you can do your own little individual ones, which I did when I was young and living on my own. And then you can save yourself some for another day, which is always good. This will keep in the fridge if you put it in a Tupperware. This will keep for up to 3 days. Please don't eat it after 3 days, you might get poorly. but up to 3 days, this being day 1. So there we go. I've got a little bit of excess potato there, but that will, my family love a good bit of mashed potato. So there we are. And then if you want to be really fancy, you can do a couple of other things. Now, some people like to grill their shepherd's pie. I don't grill mine. You can put it in the oven. So if you wanted to make it and then heat it up later on, you could pop it in the oven on 180 for about 25 minutes, just to make sure it's warmed right through. That's not from frozen, by the way, that's from chilled. There we go. Or after you've done all of this, you could, if you wished, put it under the grill. You can also take a fork and use the back of the fork and go all the way around like this. And we're there. And then I do some lines down, and it just makes it look a little bit fancy. Then if you put this into the grill, the top of the potato toasts slightly, which some people like. I haven't done that for some years with my children, but maybe one day I should. And there you have your shepherd's pie. And there we have shepherd's pie and broccoli, all ready for serving. Enjoy your shepherd's pie, everyone.